What's up, folks? Welcome back to the SYFY WIRE live stage. I'm Karama, aka the Blur Girl, and I'm here with some Thank you, honey. I'll pay you later. I am here now with the creators of a new image comic called Bitter Root, and it takes place in 1920s Harlem. And you might recognize the gentleman to my left. All the way on the end there is David F. Walker, writer. He did a little thing called Power Man and Iron Fist, Shaft, also Luke Cage. Next to him is co-writer Chuck Brown. He's been writing indie comics for a minute. And closest to me here is Sanford Greene, the artist also on Power Man and Iron Fist. And they came together to do this creator-owned project. Yes, give them a round of applause. Now, real quick, tell me, like, why you wanted to do this project, and then we'll dig into it. Sanford, starting with you.
Well, honestly, Chuck was the spark for the idea initially, and he approached me and he said, you know, I got this idea about the Harlem, you know, during the Harlem Renaissance, and I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. And truth be told, Chuck has a lot of great ideas. Some, you know, I pay attention to, some I may not. But that one I actually was like, okay, this is something really interesting. So I decided to do some quick sketches and some designs. I showed him, and he was like, whoa, that's pretty awesome. And we brought David in, and David helped us to do the world building. David is excellent at world building, so it was really cool to see, you know, just us coming together and being able to collaborate with this project. So that's something I'm pretty excited about.
Okay, and Chuck, how about you?
Like Sanford mentioned, I have dozens and dozens of ideas, and it was just one I just kind of mentioned to him, hanging out on this couch watching anime. And Bitter Root to me is about empowerment. You know, it was a powerful time during the Harlem Renaissance. And then we also have this huge message we want to get out to the public. And I was just kind of rambling off, you know, one of many ideas, and that one sparked with him, and it sparked with David, and here we are.
David, what was your reason for hanging out with your friends again?
Well, really, Chuck and Sanford just needed some supervision. They were like two children running amok in a comic book store or a candy store, and somebody needed to be the dad to say, hey, you kids, stop messing around. And that was me. That's what I'm here for.
So you were the adult in this equation.
Which is such a sad statement. When I am the responsible adult in the room, you are in a room full of irresponsible children.
So let's break it down a little bit. What is Bitter Root actually about?
I'll jump into that. Bitter Root is about the Sangrier family. They are a family of monster hunters set against the backdrop of the Harlem Renaissance. But the thing is that monsters in this world are people who have been infected by a disease. That disease is hatred, racism, intolerance, oppression. And the Sangrier family specializes mostly in curing them, but there's a faction of the family that believes we should just kill them.
It's almost kind of a Malcolm Martin scenario.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
A Malcolm Martin scenario? That's what we're looking at.
Malcolm Martin scenario, yeah. Okay. Within the family.
Within the family, yes.
So, but it sounded like it had a supernatural element. So, are we talking like witch hunting, zombie hunting?
Well, these monsters, physical manifestation of hate and greed and anger, comes out as these creatures that we all love in pop cultures, the vampires, the demons, the monsters. But with Sanford and David, we give our monsters a whole new twist.
Right.
You know?
Think of it this way. You know what you're like first thing in the morning when you don't have caffeine?
You don't know that. Why? Look.
Yes, I do.
Look,
yes.
This is live. Why are you trying to get me in trouble? Baby, I have no idea what he's talking about. Yes, but I know what you mean.
Hate is a thing that turns them into monsters.
Yeah.
The greatest horror stories, monsters are always a metaphor for something else. And in our story, they're a metaphor for hatred and racism and intolerance and oppression. And so people physically transform into just really, I think they're cute and cuddly looking, personally.
They're like Twitter trolls brought to life.
I didn't say that.
Well, you know,
I did. Not sorry.
Yeah, but you know, there's also another element that we want to kind of leave for the reader to be able to come to some conclusions to. I guess in a very, very, very small way, we want to bring about conversation the way that the Black Panther film brought about conversation. So we hope to be able to spark some of that with what we do.
Why Renaissance? Why Harlem Renaissance?
Because it's a cool time, right? And plus, honestly, I think Chuck, he asked me, he was like, is there anything done during that time? And we searched pretty hard and we hadn't really seen anything. And I mean, it's kind of surprising to know that there's not a whole lot that's been done during depict during that time. But we're kind of glad that we get to be one of the first to do that. There are things out there, but in the background that we're doing, the setting that we're doing, we haven't really seen a whole lot. So we hope to bring something new and fresh.
Now, in the creator-owned world, many times, instead of dropping floppies, people just drop a TPB. So are we getting like 22 pages, or are we getting a full volume? Or is this like a one-off? What's the...
We will go as long as you read it. It will go as long as people keep picking
Absolutely.
up the book. Yeah.
Right now, we've got 5 issues. They're ranging in length from 22 to 25 pages, 5 issues. Depending on how it's received critically and commercially, there'll be more. But to go back to your question about why the Harlem Renaissance, what I wanted to say was that not only was it an amazing time culturally, creatively, within Black America and America as a whole, while there was all this amazing stuff going on with music and literature and dance and art, at the same time, you go down south and people are still being lynched. People are still being castrated and burned alive. And so that juxtaposition of all this greatness that was being achieved here in the North versus all the horrors that were being faced in the South, that could encompass so much of good and bad, so much of beauty and ugliness within the Black experience in America, was such an interesting dichotomy that it's like, how could we not explore it?
The style also looks a little bit noir. I know you had Mike Mignola do a variant cover.
Yeah.
Mike Mignola of Hellboy. Some of you might have heard of that. And you also you've done some as well.
Yes.
Did you really just want to sink your teeth into a noir comic?
Honestly, it just kind of came about because looking at what Chuck and David came up with, it really sparked that aesthetic. And I immediately started thinking about creators like Mike Mignola when he created Hellboy, BPRD, so on and so forth. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Even films like that, it had that aesthetic that I really felt like, wow, this could play really well in what we do with Bitterroot. Of course, like what David said, the Harlem Renaissance time, that was the beginning of a lot of that as far as the fashion and the music and the culture, literature, so on and so forth. So that was, it just kind of all this worked out visually that way for me. It wasn't a whole lot of effort because it was already kind of in place.
Mm-hmm. So real quick, each of you, name your favorite character from this series and why.
Name your favorite child is what you just... I love all my children.
My favorite character is Chuck, because really Chuck is like, he's got telepathic powers. You notice he doesn't speak much, but he blinks in a special code. So when you're talking to him, he's like...
But you know what? That also could
love
be...
me too,
Are you okay, though? Are you blinking because you're not safe?
I'm fine.
Are you all right?
Sort of.
Well, I want to thank you all for being here. Tell everybody when it drops.
November 14th, 2018, in a comic store near you. Pre-order it now, because I ain't gonna lie, we need the money. Look at us, we're dressed all raggedy and everything up here, you know?
Actually, no, you're not. You're dressed in a Bitterroot t-shirt, and I don't have one.
Well,
but we'll
you
talk
know what?
about that.
We'll work that out. Come to Artist Alley, I-29, and you'll find some of these shirts there available, maybe.
Maybe if there's any left.
If there's any
Thank you so
left.
much. Everybody
you.
stay seated, stay here, don't go anywhere, because up next we have Terry Hatcher and Dean Cain from, yes, Lois and Clark. They're gonna be right here. Thank you, guys.
Hi, I'm Jackie Jennings with SYFY WIRE. If you can't get enough of New York Comic Con, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel for news, interviews, cosplay, and so much more. What are you waiting for?